a Candyman 1992, and right off the bat, it kind of irks me that I have to add the year it came out to specify because the sequel that came out this year, and yes, it is definitively a sequel because one of the characters is the baby that was in this one. The movie is also named Candyman. Before I get into the movie, rant time. Hollywood, I don't know why you're getting ashamed of the fact that these movies are sequels. If you're not going to put a number at the end of the movie, put a subtitle underneath. Halloween 2018 could have easily been Halloween Awakening. This movie could have been Candyman Returns. Generic, yes, but kind of fitting considering this new movie is the first Candyman in how many years? Candyman Returns is not inaccurate. You could have come up with another subtitle for the upcoming Scream movie, or just call it Scream 5. Now when you say Scream, you're going to have to specify the original from the 90s or the 2022 movie. Stop it, Hollywood. It's annoying. We don't like it. And you're not clever by doing it. But anyway, this is a very interesting movie that you can tackle from a few different ways. In fact, from a certain point of view, you can almost argue that there is no Candyman, and this is all in Helen's head, played by Virginia Madison, because of how things play out. She doesn't start encountering Candyman until after getting bashed in the head with a hook by a drug dealer. So you can argue there's brain trauma there. And she either sees Candyman and blacks out and wakes up in a puddle of blood, or the person that Candyman kills isn't even someone who said his name 5 times in front of a mirror. She just happens to be alone with the person. Even at the ending where he takes damage by burning and this kid sees him, or the ghost corpse, whatever it is, in a pit of fire, in the bonfire, you can almost say that could have been a mannequin. So that's one thing I like. There are many ways to discuss and tackle this movie, and you can easily say from a certain point of view, Candyman isn't even real, and it doesn't make the film any less cool or interesting. This film is urban gothic. It's set in Chicago and centers around a housing project called Caprini Green, and I have a friend, Lethal One, in Chicago, and he told me back in the 90s like how rough that place was. He said when he was a kid, even the adults were terrified to go near that place. It was such a gang area. From what I understand, Caprini Green has been torn down, but they used this real life location that there was a lot of fear around for the movie, which is also a movie about urban legend. Our main character is writing a thesis on urban legends and researching the Candyman legend, where his legend started on the property Caprini Green was built on. His father was a freed slave who became wealthy through an invention, and he was an artist who fell in love with a woman who he was commissioned to do a painting of. She got pregnant by him. They cut his hand off, killed him, smeared him with honey. He got attacked by bees, and then became this vengeful spirit, and he would kill anyone who says his name 5 times in front of a mirror. Hold on. And that's the basic gist of the movie. Helen and her friend go to say the name in front of the mirror. The friend stops it for. Helen says it 5 times, and she's the one that encounters Candyman, although he doesn't act within the rules that the urban legend in the movie clearly states. But is he real or not? I think he is real, but like I said, you can almost frame it from that he isn't real perspective. There's a lot of fun stuff to discuss with this movie. The acting is really well done all throughout. And Tony Todd, an interesting fact, because he had to have actual bees on him and even bees in his mouth, he negotiated in his contract that for every time he gets stung, he would get paid an additional $1,000, to which he got stung 23 times during the course of filming, so he made an extra 23,000. Everyone was stung at least once during the course of filming of this urban gothic horror movie. And like I said, there's a lot to discuss. This is a great thinking man's horror movie. It doesn't spell everything out for you and leaves a lot for you, the audience, to piece together and figure out on your own. They don't make them like this anymore. And the characters are really good too. We get Helen, her friend. She has a husband who's obviously cheating on her with a student. One of my favorite scenes is when her friend, her husband, and another colleague are discussing their papers, and they're like, basically tell him, we're doing the Candyman paper and we're gonna blow the one you did out of the water. And he's kind of boastful, but it's almost not in an arrogant way, because when he finds out they don't know the origin of the urban legend, he explains it to them, because he's like, you can't blow what I'm doing out of the water unless you know this part of the story. And he explains Candyman origins, and I kind of like that as an academic, yeah, he is protective over his work and being known for certain things, but if someone's going to surpass them, he still wants that person or those persons to have a fair chance. Tony Todd played Candyman to perfection. He has this great booming hypnotic voice and this foreboding presence, and the camera work with him is just really well done. He's got that charisma, and the story just moves along at a slow but not too slow pace. It picks up after her first encounter with Candyman, where a baby gets abducted and she gets arrested, and Candyman's telling her, like, it's either you or the baby that has to die. And a lot of stuff happens in between, which I'm not going to spoil, but at the end, Helen becomes this new legend of Caprini Green, and at her funeral, all the residents of Caprini Green come out to pay respect, and it's kind of implied by this sequel, she becomes the new Candyman, so to speak. And from what I understand, with the new movie, this is a spoiler alert, so mute it for like 5 seconds, there have been multiple Candyman through the sequel, so this kind of works in that vein. And it ends on another great ambiguous note. This is one of those movies, like I said, that just does not spell everything out for you and really wants you to think to get the most out of the story, which is something you don't see in a lot of horror movies. This is a solid A-plus movie. I'm sure a lot of critics back in the day called it a thriller, just like critics did when the first Scream came out, which was a critically appraised horror movie. And okay, one last rant and I'm done. Critics use the word thriller as a politician's term. They don't want to out and out give credit to a horror movie, so when they like it, they'll call it a thriller. They use thriller because they act like horror is the redheaded stepchild of the thriller. No, it's not. They're blood relatives. They're two separate genres that have a lot of overlap. So another thing, critics, stop calling horror movies thrillers. This is not a thriller. This is a horror movie. Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock, there's overlap with horror, but that is a thriller. There's a difference. And another good example, Red Eye by Wes Craven. That, I would agree, falls firmly under thriller, although there's a lot of overlap with horror. The horror genre and the thriller genre are blood relatives. They're not political terms. Don't be afraid to say you like a horror movie, critics. So now that I'm done with that rant, I'm probably going to get 2 more movies out this Montober. Halloween 4 is set in stone, and I'm hoping to also get Ernest Scared Stupid out. So don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Over and out.